Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. So I'm going to try to make this short and sweet. I hope everybody is well. So I came across this, as I usually do, browsing upon the Twitter. And it says here, it's from Bounding into Comics. It says that DC Comics artist Bryan Hitch responds to criticism of his Infinite Frontier #1 variant cover by telling fans to F off. Three guesses what the blurred out letters are here, but I don't think they're I don't think they're OOD. I don't think he was spelling food. Though I could really use some at the moment. But let's see here. So it says here, in the latest example of the disdain for readers that has become increasingly common amongst comic book industry professionals, prominent comic book artist Bryan Hitch recently responded to criticism of his Infinite Frontier #1 variant cover by inviting fans critical of his artwork to F off, right? So it says here that the cover art is by Bryan Hitch, Infinite Frontier Secret Files #1 2021 DC Comics, right? So it says here the variant cover featuring Calvin Ellis, the Superman of Earth 23 and leader of the multiversal, okay, multiversal super team Justice Incarnate. You have the Justice League, the Justice Lords, the Justice Society of America, the Justice Incarnate, Justice. But anyway, was first revealed by popular Aquaman Twitter user, the Aquaverse, who shared the artwork to their Twitter account on April 25th. And as we see here, it says Calvin Ellis, Superman, Infinite Frontier variant cover art by the Bryan Hitch. Right, so it looks pretty nice, but it's the hairline that some people sort of razzed him on a bit and what he got so mad about. But I think as a pose, got the bat symbol here in the moon and all that. As a pose, I think it's nice. I think overall it looks good. I will say that I personally don't have much of an opinion on the hairline or anything like that, but that's what he's going to get upset about. So it says here, however, following the cover's debut, many fans began to criticize Hitch for his depiction of Ellis' hairstyle. They took particular note of both his side points, that they believed were unnecessary given his lack of a widow's peak, and just how far back his hairline went. One person observed that Kryptonian barbers ain't ain't crap, right? Apparently, that was one person's view. Another person said the art's good, but that hairline, though, wrote Twitter user K Watkins, is pushed back higher than LeBron's, right? As we see that tweet here. And then Santi Claus Kiss asks, what self-respecting black man walking out of the barber shop looking like this? Right? So eventually, as it says here, the conversation was joined by Hitch himself, who had choice words for those who took issue with his artwork. In response to Greek of Krypton, who asked what the heck is up with that hairline, Hitch replied, you lot can F right off, right? And here's his tweet in all of its glory. So while I may not be repeating all the spicy words, right, you can see right here exactly what he said, live and in color, and uncensored, and in my opinion, unprovoked. Right, this would in turn prompt a clarification from Greek of Krypton, who informed Hitch that he meant no disrespect and was just having a little fun with it. Right, so if you see here, shortly after this exchange, Hitch deleted his tweet. As of writing, it's not entirely clear who exactly Hitch was referring to with his mention of you lot, though some have attempted to claim that Hitch was making a blanket statement toward black individuals. These accusations are completely unfounded, as the subject of contention was the quality of the artwork rather than the skin color of those involved, right? Furthermore, Hitch has not publicly addressed or apologized for his outburst since making the initial tweet. What do you make of Hitch's response and so forth? So here's the thing. I do agree that I don't think for a second that Hitch meant anything racially insensitive or insulting about it. I don't think it was in any way racially motivated, to be clear. That being said, this is just another example of the gross lack of professionalism, I would say, that is not just found in DC Comics and their comic professionals, but it's found in the mainstream comic industry, uh, in Marvel, in Image, in Valiant, where I think Heather Antos used to work. Now she's bouncing around. Apparently, she wanted to get a job at DC, and Jim Lee. And I gotta be honest, I don't think Jim's exactly the best leader. He's a great artist, but I don't think he's a good leader. But even he was like, "We don't want you here," and he passed on by her, which I think is a good decision. But this just points out the lack of professionalism from him and just from really the industry as a whole. I mean, there have been so many people over the years: Dan Slott, what's his name, Donny Cates, Jason Aaron, who doesn't. Jason Aaron cannot write a female character and not try to take some sort of dig at a fan base. This is why I cannot read his work anymore. And God knows what he did to She-Hulk, right? Anybody who's been a long fan of this channel knows that I used to talk about comics a lot, used to cover it a lot, and I have made more than enough rants about what Jason Aaron did to She-Hulk and what other writers have done over the years. The thing is that this lack of professionalism is exactly why things like Comicsgate got started. And believe it or not, just like Gamergate, Comicsgate still gets smeared and maligned as a hate group, even though the movement has cooled off a lot because a lot of the main players have gone and done their own thing, right? Doug Ernst does his own thing. Uh, Richard Meyer does his own thing. Ethan Van Sciver's got his own thing going. A lot of them eventually stopped fighting with the industry and just went on to do their own stuff. And now they fight with each other, right? And whatnot. But the industry, the mainstream industry, despite being used more or less as an IP farm for movies and TV shows, right? They can't seem to stop shooting themselves in the foot and committing not just career suicide, but industry suicide, right? This stuff is why the Comicsgate started, because fans got tired, myself included. Fans got tired of this type of behavior, of this type of interaction from pros. Now, it's one thing if someone is being profane toward you time and time and time again. But while some of these tweets indeed did use profanity, it was not in any way that at least I would judge as insulting or profane. They were just making fun of how he got the hairline wrong. There were so many things that Bryan could have done here. He could have just ignored it. He could have just said, haha, okay, guys, fine. I got the hairline wrong. Are you happy? Right? He could have laughed along with it. But no, no, no. He chooses to be unprofessional and not just make himself look bad, but make the company that he works for look bad. Okay? Like, how many times does DC have to get in trouble? Really? How many times, DC, how many times, Jim Lee, do people who work for the company, right, or at least are contracted to work for the company in some fashion for a time, have to get in trouble and embarrass the company before you take action about it? You have Bryan Hitch now. You have, what was it, July of last year, when it wasn't Sean Gordon Murphy, it was the other guy, Tom King. Sean's actually one of the few actual professionals left in comics. Sean Gordon Murphy, but Tom King, right? Tom King just last year, or almost last year, happened in, I think it was July of last year, right? Tried to cancel Jay Lee's career because he did a cover for DC, and Tom King found out that Jay Lee also did a cover for Ethan Van Sciver's Cyberfrog, because he had literally done a cover for the book back in like the 1990s when it was part of Harris Comics, right? So he was coming back to something he had done literally decades ago, as a sort of favor, nod, whatever it was. And not only did Tom King embarrass DC, right? He nearly canceled an artist's career during a pandemic, right? And interestingly enough, Jay Lee at that time, his dog had just passed away, so he and his wife or fiance, the woman in his life, I don't know what their relationship was at the time, or at least I don't remember. But he caused all this needless pain. Tom King caused all of this needless pain because of his explosive temper and impotent rage. So, how many times does this need to happen before the mainstream industry finally listens? Right? I will admit, the industry has lasted longer than I thought it would. I really thought it was going to collapse last summer with the way everything was looking. So, I'll give them credit for lasting longer than I thought they would. But a terminally ill patient is still a terminally ill patient. They're still going to die. It's just taking a little bit longer than I had originally anticipated, at least. And guess what? This is what's killing DC. This is what's killing the industry. Lack of professionalism. Because lack of professionalism not only turns your fan base away because they don't want to get cursed out, right? They don't want to get cursed out for foolish reasons, number one. Number two, right? Lack of professionalism leads to poor work product, poor work ethic, and poor work quality, right? And none of that is acceptable. Excuse me. Life calls at times, but yeah, as I was saying, lack of professionalism, can be said to be the root of all the other issues that comics have been facing for the past several years now. And you know what the crazy thing is? The last comic, or at least series of comics that I purchased, right, that were fairly modern, right, that I have purchased, despite being a Marvel girl, were actually DC. I can show you, right? Here, come on. Here is my Google Play, right? Only a small little snippet of it. As you can see here, I'm not joking when I say that I read a lot. I have books about relationships. I have biographies. I have books about war. I got Jocko Willink stuff. I've got the Tale of Genji. I got a lot of stuff here. This is just a small snippet of it. But as you can see here, right after Way of the Warrior Kid, Mark's mission, what do you see here? Power Girl, Power Girl. And I've got another Power Girl thing in here somewhere. I think it's the Power Girl Harley Quinn team up that they did several years ago, right? But this was one of the last DC comics that I purchased. As you can see, right? Over here you see it's dark. It says purchases 103, right? I got a lot of samples, but I also got a lot of purchases, right? And this was one of them. This was one of the last things I purchased before I decided to boycott comics and not give them money for anything, even classic works that I really like, because I don't want to enrich the mainstream industry in any way, right? But this type of behavior, right? This type of behavior is what pushes away people like me, people who have spending money, who want to buy your comics, DC. I would like to get more Power Girl. I would like to buy some Batman. I would like to buy some Justice League. But I can't. And it's not a matter, for me at least, I can't speak for others, but for me it's not a matter of money. I have the disposable income. Not a lot of it, but it's there. But for me it's a matter of this. I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, I cannot in good conscience enrich a company and enrich a business, right, that allows its employees, right, whether they be actual employees or they're contracted workers, vendors, whatever you want to call them, right. I understand that the comics industry is very freelance, right, but I, in good and in good conscience, I should say, cannot give money to someone who worked on a product and this is how they respond when they get what is at best, and maybe it's just my opinion, but at best, what the heck up is with that hairline? A self-respecting black man walks out of a barber shop, right? And, and joking about LeBron's hairline. This is at best light teasing. This is at best light teasing, and this is how Bryan Hitch responds, right? So, here's how I responded. At DC Comics, do you allow artists such as the Bryan Hitch to swear at customers because he didn't like their critique of his art? And yes, I know he deleted it. Doesn't matter. Professionalism needs to return to comics. It needs to return to comics. It needed to return to comics 10 years ago. Now, do I honestly think DC's going to do anything? I doubt it. Maybe if enough people complain, right? Maybe if enough people make videos or tweet them or whatnot, maybe they'll do something. But I don't think they're gonna do anything because of whittle me. I don't have that kind of clout or power. But I think it's just further proof of again why why a lot of people are not reading comics. Comics, unfortunately, as a medium, are dying anyway, right? People don't want to admit it. People want to keep supporting the comic shops out of loyalty, and that's what you want to do. That's fine. I got no problem with it. But I've said before, comics, in my opinion, just like most print media, is going the way of GamePro, right? Something that was once popular, and as new media, digital media moved in, it got bounced, right? But even in a dying medium, in a dying industry, you only kill the industry faster with this type of unprofessionalism. Right now, I don't want to purchase DC. This certainly hasn't made me change my opinion about my stance on not purchasing DC's products. So, guess what? You lost money. Money that you may have potentially had. Maybe not for this particular story, but all the stories DC's ever written or made and published. Right? I might have purchased something, but now I won't purchase anything. Right? So this is what happens when you allow your employees to run completely unchecked. You turn people who have the means to spend money on your product away from you. It's never a good look. It's never a good idea. But hey, if the comics industry wants to die, if DC wants to die, if Jim Lee wants to let this ship sink for good under his watch, who am I to stop him? It just means more money in my pocket. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day and night wherever you are.